every crime, a story of a survivor, of someone left behind, of someone determined to solve a mystery. These are the stories of crimes that changed lives forever. This is Justice Rules.
A serial killer so cold, one of his own attorneys called him the very definition of heartless evil. Ted Bundy preyed on his victims, killed dozens of young women, defiled their bodies, and even kept parts of their bodies as trophies. It's been nearly 3 decades since he was executed in Florida, but now authorities in Seattle are re-examining evidence for crimes he may have committed there. Right now, for the first time, a woman who was kidnapped by Bundy is sharing her terrifying story. She walked reporter Dave Wagner through the frightening encounter and how a haircut may have saved her life.
And I still can see him.
It is a voice you've never heard.
Did you feel like you might die?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
And film you've never seen. One of America's most notorious serial killers.
Ted Bundy was a charming man. He wasn't a charming man. That was a facade.
Stalking his next victims at a Lake Sammamish picnic.
He's not what people imagine, you know, a sexual predator, serial killer looks like.
And a woman who says she's finally ready to talk about her terrifying ride with a man named Ted.
When he said, "Don't even go there, you're never getting out of here," I knew that was my life flashing in front of me.
It has been 46 years since Sotria Kritsonis last journeyed down this stretch of road.
It sure has changed a lot with all the new buildings.
But the memories of a snowy Seattle day in 1972 are clear and haunting.
He was dressed real nice, and you know, his hair was kind of wavy, and he had dark eyes. Handsome looking.
It was in this area. This has all been changed, but it was right here.
Sotria was 22 and says she'd waited nearly an hour for a city bus to take her to classes in Renton.
Car pulled up to the curb, rolled down the window, and said, "Hello, young lady. Are you waiting for the bus?" And he goes, "Well, you know, I've come down Rainer Avenue, and that's a long ways, and there's not a bus in sight. Would you like a ride?"
In the 70s, in relatively safe Seattle, the handsome young man seemed more friendly than foreboding.
So you hopped in his car, not thinking it was going to be a problem at all?
No, I thought how happy I am now. I'm in a warm car, and I get to where I'm going.
As the Volkswagen Bug took off down Rainier Avenue South, Sotria said it quickly became clear this would be no ordinary ride, and this was no good Samaritan. It was Ted Bundy.
Right about here, everything changed. He started, you know, reaching under the seat, started yelling at me, "Why did you take this ride? Why did you even think about taking this ride?
You're never going to make it to the school." And I thought,
wow.
You were thinking about jumping out.
Yes.
Why didn't you?
I couldn't. There was no handle.
No handle on the door?
No handle on the door at all, nope.
Sotria would soon learn it might be hair, not heroics, that could save her life. Many young women did not escape Ted Bundy, and some of their bodies were dumped here in remote areas of Issaquah. Others have never been found. It's also a place investigators believe Bundy trolled for more victims. It was the summer of '74, and employees of Rainier Brewing Company were enjoying their annual company picnic at Lake Sammamish State Park. In evidence never seen by the public until now, this film reveals how a day of fun became fertile ground for Ted Bundy to target his next victims. His Volkswagen Bug, seen here, offered a front row seat to watch women. That same day, in broad daylight, Bundy abducted Janice Ott and Denise Naslin from the park within 4 hours of each other.
The Lake Sammamish cases where once he got them in the car, he would quickly hit them in the head with a tire iron or beat them with a tire iron. That was kind of his MO.
Film shows police on scene to investigate the women's disappearance, with Bundy's car still in the background. The bodies of Ott and Naslin weren't found until 2 months later, dumped in a wooded area about 2 miles away.
Where you're not going to go to your destination.
Back in that VW Bug,
I was sobbing and praying and, you know, pleading for my life practically. Don't do anything, don't harm me.
Sotria says Bundy was driving her south on I-5 toward Tukwila.
You should have never taken this ride and shut the up.
She says Bundy's beratement led to a bizarre demand.
He goes, take your hat off. And I said, what do you mean take my hat off, my stocking cap off? What for? I took my hat off and he saw that something was different about me. And he goes, why did you cut your hair? I thought, why did I cut my hair?
I keep thinking, did he stalk me? Did he see me somewhere? Was he waiting for me or was he watching me?
He says, well, put that hat back on. And then he said, shut the up, and he's yelling at me, you're never gonna make it.
He may have been involved in the rape murders of 36 women, all young and all with long brown hair.
Sotria speculates the hair that she had cut a week earlier may have saved her life.
He could have killed me. It was just thank God I had gotten my hair cut, that I probably wouldn't be talking to you today.
An hour into her odyssey, Sotria says Bundy dropped her off in front of her school, shoving her to the ground and reminding her of just how lucky she was.
Yeah, so that's when I realized I was a lucky lady.
Sotria says she told her family about the man, but not police.
You know, I didn't talk about it because I was a little bit embarrassed about it.
He was attractive, intelligent, and able to charm women and men alike.
It wasn't until a year and a half later, while watching TV, that Sotria says she realized she'd been picked up by a suspected serial killer.
I knew 100% that was the guy, yeah.
The Bundy evidence files we examined here in King County are expansive.
I think he's responsible for additional murders.
And Cairo 7 has learned that homicide investigators with the Washington Attorney General's office are taking a new look at who else Bundy may have targeted.
Do you believe they are actively pursuing a DNA connection right now to Ted Bundy?
I believe some detectives are.
Seattle police investigators are re-examining evidence from this crime in 1966.
You have to keep your eyes open and say, what about Bundy? Is that a possibility?
While working at this Safeway in Queen Anne, Bundy is suspected of bludgeoning 2 flight attendants in their nearby apartment. Lonnie Trumbull died. Her roommate suffered permanent memory loss. Bundy never confessed to the crime.
At this point, we kind of have a second eye going over it and seeing what kind of physical evidence is there to maybe address with 2018 science.
Ted Bundy was executed in a Florida prison. His ashes were spread over the Cascade Mountains, not far from where he created so much havoc and heartache. And nearly 3 decades later, some of the answers to Bundy's past remain buried in the landscape of the Pacific Northwest.
The families deserve answers to what happened to their loved one.
A place of grandeur, grief, and gratitude.
You must feel lucky. You are a woman who survived Ted Bundy.
That I am. I'm more than lucky. I just thank God I'm alive every day.
When it comes to the bludgeoning and murder of those 2 flight attendants, Seattle homicide investigators tell us there are similarities to the way Bundy killed 2 women at the Chi Omega sorority house at Florida State University. With improved forensic technology, the hope is detectives might be able to solve that crime. A star NFL player. He seemed to have it all: money, success, fame, even an appearance in the Super Bowl, until it all came tumbling down. Patriots star Aaron Hernandez was arrested, charged, and eventually convicted of murdering his friend Odin Lloyd. But during that trial, an even more shocking turn of events. Hernandez was accused in a separate murder case, a double homicide outside a nightclub. Reporter Ted Daniels sat down with the Boston police detectives who broke the case, and they reveal how Aaron Hernandez first became a suspect and who bankrolled his defense.
June 2013, as Aaron Hernandez is taken in for the murder of Odin Lloyd, Detective Sergeant Mark Sullivan is taken back to an unsolved double murder in the South End.
I remember a silver BMW sitting at the red light, a white sheet covering the bodies, crime scene tape blocking both sides of the intersection.
11 months earlier, someone opened fire on a car full of friends heading home from Kier Lounge in the Theater District. Sullivan remembers seeing Hernandez in security footage provided by the club.
Aaron had VIP access, so he was escorted in to the right as the victims were paying. And then it just hit me that we had to look at Aaron.
And you got a guy playing for the Patriots who's already being looked at in one murder, now on your radar screen.
It was unbelievable. Like that next day when Sergeant followed him, because we had video from everywhere, so follow him.
The detectives travel the country, taking statements and collecting evidence. One of their first stops is the Bristol County Jail, where Hernandez is being held for the Lloyd murder. Their first face-to-face meeting with him is also their last.
Within 10 minutes, we received a call from his lawyer.
Oh, yeah.
Telling us to stay away.
We weren't even out of the parking lot yet when his lawyer called.
When Aaron Hernandez refused to talk with the detectives, they turned their attention to the guy who was in the car with him that night. Enter Alexander Bradley. Alexander Bradley is not the type of guy who normally goes around speaking to law enforcement. How were you able to turn him?
We had a lot of help from Aaron. Aaron tried to kill him.
Alexander, what can you tell me about July 2012?
Not much.
That's Bradley in December 2013, the first time we tracked him down.
He said I hit one in the head and one in the chest.
He told the detectives Hernandez shot him in Florida 6 months after the double murders to silence him. While investigating the claim, they see signs that Hernandez is not only impulsive, but calculating.
He has to have people drive a car for him. I mean, there's people involved in this.
Alex Bradley's cell phone went missing at the strip club. So Alex had nobody to call, and Aaron left his cell phone in the hotel, and then next thing you know it, Aaron's off on a plane at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Bradley IDs Hernandez as the man who killed Safira Furtado and Daniel de Abreu in a fit of rage over a spilled drink.
As of right here, that's it.
The detectives revealed to us 2 of the survivors in the car also ID Hernandez as the trigger man, but the judge bars the prosecution from revealing that during the trial.
How much do you think that hurt the prosecution's case?
It couldn't have hurt us by having it. The reasoning from the court was that they were too prejudicial.
Another stunner from the detectives. They say Hernandez wasn't paying his own bills.
Money can buy a good defense. I think during our trial, Aaron was probably out of money, and other football players were supporting his defense.
The detectives would not say which players, just that they were not Patriots.
You've been able to determine that?
Yes.
Yes.
Hernandez's lead attorney, Jose Baez, suggests de Abreu and Furtado may have been involved in something sinister when they were killed. Sullivan and McIsaac say nothing could be further from the truth.
The victims were good kids. They weren't involved in anything. No association with them involved in any gang activity. They were good kids, hardworking kids.
While serving his life sentence for the murder of Odin Lloyd, Hernandez was tried and found not guilty for the double murder outside the nightclub. Days later, though, he hung himself in his prison cell. Boston police said they were not surprised because after his acquittal, a person close to Hernandez had told them definitively he would take his own life.
A Brink's armored truck driver and his partner ambushed in broad daylight. A shootout in front of dozens of witnesses.
It was a full blazing gun battle.
That driver killed, his partner seriously hurt, and the suspects still on the run. After nearly 50 years, the key piece of evidence that could help solve this cold case. A sleepover, a kidnapping, and 4 murders. Nearly 2 decades later, finally an arrest. But still, one big question remains. Where are the bodies? The new push to bring closure to 2 heartbroken families.
In 1999, Ashley Freeman and Laura Bible were 16. They planned a sleepover at Ashley's for her birthday. But at some point in the middle of the night, Ashley's home burned to the ground. Her parents were shot to death inside, and the girls were gone. It was a mystery spanning nearly 2 decades until finally, as reporter Tiffany Alanese explains, a break in the case.
Wrong place, wrong time.
In an instant, their world became a living hell. Investigators detailed days of torture, the crimes so bad, and the people who committed them so dangerous, no one wanted to talk, even so many who knew facts that would solve the case.
The retaliation, if anybody talks, you'll end up dead.
Laura's mom says that fear is still alive today, and she continues to search for the clue that will lead her to Laura and Ashley's bodies.
They're scared that somebody's going to physically come and harm them or their children or their grandchildren. And that's what we've been up against for 18 years.
I talked with Ashley's grandpa, Glenn Freeman. He told me one of the suspects who investigators say were responsible for kidnapping, killing, and torturing the girls lived just 3/4 of a mile from the Freeman home.
I don't think the average person, even here around Bonita, realized what a dangerous situation it was to even talk about that. You wind up dead real quick.
The Bibles and the Freemans are still desperate for tips that will lead to the girls' bodies. For Glenn, it's really his last wish.
You told me about a year ago that you wanted to live till they could find Ashley.
Yeah, I'm gonna probably die tomorrow.
No, no, don't even say that, no. No.
Oh, I'd like to know where she went to.
Laureen Bible, a mom who will stop at nothing to find her daughter, begging you to come forward if you know anything.
Put yourself in my shoes. And if you know anything, pick up a phone.
Ronnie Busick is charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder, 2 counts of kidnapping and arson. The other 2 suspects, David Pennington and Warren Welch, died before police named them as suspects. Witnesses told investigators they feared retaliation, so didn't come forward sooner. According to the Washington Post, the 3 men bragged about the girls' violent deaths and even showed off Polaroids of the teens to threaten others. Police never found those photos, but the horrible images were clear enough in the minds of those witnesses to finally help investigators crack this cold case. They do need help with people coming forward with any information about where those girls' bodies are, though. There is still a $50,000 reward. Jacksonville, Florida, 1970. It was 3 o'clock in the afternoon. A Brink's armored truck driver and his partner were making a routine stop at a local department store when suddenly armed men ambushed them, leading to a brazen shootout in front of dozens of witnesses. The driver murdered while trying to protect his partner. All these years later, the gunmen who killed that driver and seriously hurt his partner are still walking free. Reporter Lorena Inklin spoke with his heartbroken family, still in search of justice.
Brink's guard slain in a hail of gunfire. Photos show detectives at the scene. A shootout in broad daylight made headline news in the summer of 1970. These are snapshots of the day that changed the lives of Adrian Saxe and Diana Miller forever.
First words was she said, "They shot your dad and they killed him."
Saxe was 17 years old at the time, but she'll never forget those words from her mom on June 17, 1970. Miller was 13, but the questions she had back then are the same ones she has today.
Why would someone rob a Brink's truck and kill someone? You know, for what? For money?
Their 43-year-old father, George Schwender, worked as a security guard to support his wife and 6 children. During an in-town run at the local Zayre's department store on Beach Boulevard, he and his partner, Harry Schenk, were ambushed by gunmen.
It was a full blazing gun battle.
It was around 3 in the afternoon. Schenk was coming out of the store with a bag full of checks, receipts, and some cash. Schwender was inside the armored Brink's truck.
He was locked in the secured vehicle. He didn't have to open the door.
According to reports, Schwender opened the truck's door, returning fire to help his partner, who was critically wounded but survived. JSO Cold Case Unit Supervisor Sergeant Dan Jansen is now taking another look at the case.
I have one significant piece of evidence that we've discovered, and it appears that we still have it in our possession. It's a hat.
Jansen tells me there were 8 witnesses. More than one described a suspect wearing this hat.
There's a strong possibility that we might be able to run this for some DNA and see what we come up with.
JSO also has a palm print and 33 photo negatives that still need to be developed.
We believe there was 3. We believe there was 2 gunmen and a getaway driver. We believe the getaway driver is most likely a female.
Newspaper clippings show someone was arrested and charged in the case, but later released after providing an alibi. Schwender's children have all grown up, forced to live their lives without their dad.
We never saw us graduate from high school, never saw anybody got married, never saw any grandchildren.
But now, this case could be closer than ever to getting solved.
If they're out there and they're not in jail already for something else, they need to be put in jail.
If you know anything that can help police finally solve this case, call Jacksonville Sheriff's Office or Crime Stoppers at 866-845-TIPS. You can remain anonymous. Thank you for joining us. And remember, for so many of these families, one tip could be the key to bringing them closure and putting those responsible behind bars for good.